Well, as I mentioned, the House has been working through dozens of amendments to the National Defense Authorization Act, which directs military spending. At the center of the debate in the $886 billion bill is reversing many of the Biden administration's use of the military for social experiments that the left prioritizes. This includes abortion traveling funding, transgender promotions, DEI and CRT programs, and so-called green energy policies. Joining me now from the House floor to discuss this and more is Congressman Mike Johnson. He serves on the House Judiciary Committee, the House Armed Services Committee, and the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of Government. He represents the 4th Congressional District of Louisiana, and he is the co-chair of the House Conference. Congressman Johnson, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Hey, Tony, always a pleasure to be with you.
Now, I know you may have to slip off to vote because I think votes are right now taking place. Give us the latest on an amendment you and I have talked about. It was offered earlier. It's going to be voted on here momentarily. That is the one by Congressman Ronnie Jackson that it goes directly to the heart of the issue of the funding for abortion in terms of facilitating it by the Department of Defense. Give us a status on that.
Yeah, the Department of Defense is doing an end run around many of the pro-life states' laws and all the hard work that's been done. After Dobbs overturned Roe, this has become a really important issue in the country. And so what they try to do by sort of this executive fiat through the executive branch and in the Department of Defense is the Secretary of Defense. The Secretary has said that they will pay for or reimburse expenses relating to abortion services. So in other words, if a service member or a woman serving is pregnant and she's on a base somewhere, then she can travel to, and she's in a red state, she can travel to a state that provides abortion, and taxpayers will reimburse her for that. That's a violation of the Hyde Amendment, the long protection we've had in federal law against the use of taxpayer dollars for that. It violates the spirit and the letter of the law in the states around the country that have worked so hard, and we've got to make sure that this is reversed. And so this amendment is our attempt and effort to do that.
Yeah, and just to be very clear here, we're talking about elective abortions. So this is
right.
This is new territory. For decades, this has been a bipartisan position that taxpayers would not be forced to facilitate abortion. So that amendment, it's been debated on the floor. It will be voted on here momentarily. And folks, you can still weigh in on this by calling the Capitol switchboard 202-224-3121 and telling your member of Congress to support Ronnie Jackson's amendment to get the government out of the abortion business. What
amendment
else?
Amendment number 5, Tony. Amendment number 5. That's what they need to say.
All right. That'll be very clear. Amendment number 5, support amendment number 5 by Congressman Ronnie Jackson of Texas. All right. What else are we looking at? There's several other programs that are being zeroed in on by conservatives.
Well, right. As you mentioned, it's the president and his administration that has injected into the military all of this woke social policy nonsense. And so we have ESG and DEI and anything else you can imagine, funding of drag queen shows on military bases, violation of parental rights. We were able to get amendments, it ruled in order here to take care of all of that, to take that out of our military policy. And so those are some of the debates that have been had on the floor, and these are the votes that we'll have here over the next several hours. We may be on the floor until after midnight tonight handling all this, but it's far more contentious than it should be. Our military has a very important job. They're to be trained to be a powerful force that wins wars and defends our nation, not experimentation with social policy. And so it's just completely disingenuous for the president to say the things that he said today. It's not, as you noted, Tony, it's not Republicans and conservatives that are inserting this. It was him. We're undoing the damage that has been done.
It's like they poke the bear and the bear pushes back, and they accuse the bear of being aggressive. It is the left that has been pushing this stuff for years. I mean, the military should be focused on preparing to fight and win wars, not picking the proper pronouns, which is what this administration is focused on. I do want to point out, Congressman, that there's something unique here under this Republican Congress, is that you're actually having debates on the floor about amendments. That is something that hasn't happened in a very long time.
What a concept. Yeah, we were able to get some real process reforms in that long, drawn-out battle for the speakership in January, and as painful as that process was for everyone, the result was really good. We got transparency again. We eliminated forever, we hope, the possibility of omnibus spending bills and giant pieces of legislation that no one has read. We're going through this methodical process. It takes a lot more time and effort, but this is what is demanded, and that's what the American people deserve. And I'm really glad we've gotten back to some.
I don't want people to miss that as we're in these raging debates that. A year ago, we couldn't even have these debates. Under the Democratic rules, there was no debate. It was just you were steamrolled in the left's process of getting their agenda through. I want to transition, Congressman Johnson, to yesterday's hearing in which you were a part of in the Judiciary Committee with Director of the FBI, Christopher Wray. There were some troubling things that came up from my standpoint as I listened to the debate. One of those issues was over the FISA warrants and the fact that there's been literally hundreds of thousands of those that were improperly served. That's alarming.
Well, of course it is. It may be many more than hundreds of thousands, perhaps more than 1 million. And that is a law that is supposed to be used for, intelligence and gathering info on people overseas who are trying to do Americans harm. But the law has been abused by the FBI routinely, and American citizens have been swept up into this, and their privacy rights violated, and all sorts of information gathered and used against them inappropriately. That was just one of the many things that Director Wray was really evasive about. And I think, Tony, and I've said it in media all day long today, I think he said things that were demonstrably, provably untrue. And I don't know whether he's lying under oath or he certainly didn't know some of these things, but either of those eventualities is alarming to us. And he has a lot more explaining to do.
Well, there was actually testimony yesterday that contradicted previous testimony. When he was asked about it, he said, well, I just didn't know. And so, that's very convenient to say, well, I didn't know about that, but mislead Congress in these oversight hearings.
Yeah, our oversight is a critical responsibility of the Congress, and this is a serious matter here because the American people are losing their faith in our Department of Justice, our system of justice itself, because the scandals are mounting here. And under Director Wray's watch, we all know the long list of abuses. They use counterterrorism resources against parents at school board meetings, and they raided the homes of conservative political opponents, and they labeled conservative Catholics, pro-life citizens, violent extremists. You had the Special Counsel Durham report just last month, and he concluded that the FBI failed to uphold its mission of strict fidelity to the law. And then, Tony, out of our home state of Louisiana, July 4th, this explosive 155-page court opinion where a federal court looks at all this and concludes this is the court's words, not mine.
Right.
The FBI is directly involved in what is arguably the most massive attack against free speech in United States history. This is not a game, and he owes us more explanation, and we're all owed accountability for what's happened here.
I want to go back. We just got about a minute left. I want to go back to the FISA warrants because this is something that goes back to post 9/11 Patriot Act. This is something that is up before Congress for reauthorization. Is
right.
This going to be reauthorized?
We're going to fight tooth and nail the reauthorization of Section 702 of FISA unless there are real and meaningful reforms to ensure that the constitutional rights of the citizens that all these statutes are designed to protect are respected. And that is not happening here. And so there's no way that you're going to get the Republican votes to authorize this in its current form. And we need the FBI and everybody in the intelligence agencies to acknowledge the errors, own up to them, and commit to us that they will follow the law. That's the key here.
All right, Congressman Mike Johnson, I know you got to go vote on the amendments to the NDAA. I thank you for stepping off the floor to join us by phone.